Hello again. The population of Lebanon is 5.5 million, of whom just under 70%, about 69%, are Muslim. This means that there are around 3,795,000 Muslims in that country. According to the 2021 census held in Britain, there are 3,801,186 Muslims living here. In other words, there are more Muslims in Britain than there are in Lebanon. Whatever your feelings about immigration, whether positive or negative, this is surely an extraordinary state of affairs. How on earth did it come about that we have a greater population of Muslims in this country than that of a Middle Eastern nation? These figures are even more interesting when you think about the composition of the people in the two countries who are Christian. A few years ago, the majority of people in both Britain and Lebanon were Christians. In both countries today, Christians are in a minority. Fewer than half the people in this country identify as Christians, according to the 2021 census, whereas in 2001, over 70% of people said that they were Christians. In Lebanon a few decades ago, 60% of the people were Christian. Now they make up barely a third of the population. I remember when the south of Lebanon was run by Christians, the South Lebanon Army under Said Haddad. These days the Christians have been driven out and South Lebanon is run by fanatical Islamists. There is something about Islam which tends to erode and drive out Christianity. In Lebanon, this process was turbocharged by the aftermath of the Jordanian Civil War in 1970. The Palestinians, expelled at gunpoint from Jordan after the Black September that year, moved to Lebanon, which was at that time a Christian country which was prosperous and liberal. Beirut was known as the Paris of the Middle East. Once Muslim extremists moved in, all that began to change, and within a few years a civil war had started there as well. Christians fled the country, and many who did not were massacred. We see the same trend, by the way, in Gaza and in towns like Bethlehem, the birthplace of Jesus. In Gaza, when Hamas took over in 2007, there were over 5,000 Christians. Now there are only around 1,000. 80% of them have left. The population of Bethlehem was 85% Christian in the 1950s. Now it's down to 12% or so. This is in sharp contrast to Israel, where the Christian population has remained stable and even grown a little. There may be implications for Britain as the number of Muslims increases here year by year. I find it a really strange situation that we in this country have deliberately imported enough Muslims to bring our country into the same difficulties as some experienced in the Middle East. Whether this was part of a plan or sheer accident, the future doesn't really look all that encouraging.